infrastructures developed such as irrigation systems.
Thanks again. So next one is expanding northward exploration and personal growth. So Livingstone went to for Kuruman missionary station, and he started thinking about like a trip to Africa. So he first trip thinking about to go some explore some place which is missionaries people haven't explored yet. But from the England, he didn't receive any order to go there. So like he just waiting the order. At that time, he have a partner. His name is Edward. So David and Edward, they thinking, and he shared his plans with the his partner. But he asked the time to go there, and they prepare for their wagon to export their trip. So time by time, they explore their first trip, and they go to Africa. At that time, in Africa, they don't know any language, Buru language, so they pick one Christian African people to communicate them. So they start to go to the village to village, and one of them was like a tribe. They went there, and David was a doctor, so to know, communicate, to help them, he start immediately the healing with the people. So after then, they see the white people is coming to their tribe. So like they firstly was scared. Then like after the healing the people, they understand he not harm to them. Yeah. After then, time by time, he just go back his first trip and he think immediately to go another trips. Second trip also was like going to another tribe and he thinks he at that time keep drawing his maps. So one day he asked the chiefs to like give suggestion to another to place. At that time, so the chief said go to there is very dangerous. So it was a desert, and he went there for and meet the lion, and he just attacked by a lion. And like he was a partner, they carried with the gun, so like they barely lived there with the gun, and they killed the lion. And Livingstone is one of them. Memorable memory is that was he almost like get killed by lion. And the next one is he went for the after back for the second trip. He get injured, and at that time he is the pastors has a three daughter, and one of them was Mary. He was thinking about it before he also seen the girl, and she was 23 years old. She likes, and David always think about himself and inside, and he believed that he's truly wife. It will be her, and he just came and shared his feeling to propose her. After that, they she like accept his proposal. Then they get married, but at that time he say like my life is gonna be in Africa, and I will just go with, and your life will be like very hard. And she just accept her situation, and they go together for the uh, their exploration, the exploration for the mission. Yeah.
In chapter 12 to 14, it is focused about against this slavery and
Okay, hi. Our topic is Isaac Newton. And this is our directory. Newton was born in December 25, 1642, so he was called of Christmas baby. And however, his birth came with many challenges. He was born prematurely and his health was so fragile that doctors at the time doubted he would survive. Against all odds, he did survive, perhaps foreshadowing the extraordinary life he was destined to lead. And his father passed away before he was born, and leaving his mother to face great financial hardship. Despite this difficulty, his community, including his grandma and uncle, stepped in to support him during his early years. And this care and encouragement provide the foundation for his future success. And interestingly, Newton's birth on Christmas Day carried a symbolic meaning for those around him. Many believe that being born on such a special day was a sign of hope and greatness, and they felt he was destined for something remarkable. And his story shows they were absolutely right. Newton went to make groundbreaking contribution to science, from his three laws of motion to his discovery of universal gravitation. His achievement transformed humanity's understanding of the nature of world.
So let's talk about Newton's hard time. Newton's father died before he was born. Although his father owned property and animals which made him quite a wealthy man, he was completely uneducated and could not sign his own name. Isaac's mother, Honor Escott, remarried Barnabas Smith, the minister of the church at North Wiffen, a nearby village. When Newton was 2 years old, the young child was then left in the care of his grandmother, Margaret Anscombe, at Horsford, basically treated as an orphan. Newton did not have a happy childhood. Additionally, these years of Newton's young were the most turbulent in the history of England because of the War of the English Civil from 1642 to 1651. And his school life. Shortly after the death of his stepfather in 1653, Newton began attending the King's School in Grantham. Although this was only 5 miles from his home, Newton lodged with the Clark family at Grantham. However, he seems to have shown little promise in academic work. He was being bullied, and his school reports described him as idle and inattentive. His mother thought that he was the right person to manage her affairs and her estate. Newton was taken away from school but soon showed that he had no talent and interest in managing an estate. An uncle, William Escott, decided that Newton should prepare for entering university, and having persuaded his mother that this was the right thing to do, Newton was allowed to return to the King's School in Grantham in 1660 to complete his school education. This time he lodged with Stokes, who was the headmaster of the school. It would appear that, despite suggestions that he had previously shown no academic promise, Newton must have convinced some of these around him that he had academic promise. This time, Newton's determination and led him to the top of the class, showing exceptional memory and understanding. And inspire. During his school years, Newton developed an interest in mechanics and the natural world. He spent time building soldiers, and experimenting with magical device, which demonstrates his early inclination towards scientific inquiry. Also, this promotes him to graduate at the top of the school and then on to Cambridge.
Uh, okay, let's talk about in college. And during Newton's academic journey, he entered Trinity College, Cambridge as a Caesar, a status that allowed him to reduce his tuition costs by performing various tasks for the college. This position placed him in a relatively modest social standing within the academic environment, shaping his early experience at the university. The academic environment at Cambridge was far from easy for Newton and was, in fact, quite challenging. At the time, the curriculum was heavily centered around traditional Aristotelian philosophy, which emphasized technology. The belief that everything has a specific purpose. The idea that every entity has a defined essence. Newton found these rigid ideas uninspiring and began to question the teaching methods of his professors, opting instead to chart his own course of intellectual exploration. And during Newton's time, the academic world was buzzing with scientific curiosity and groundbreaking ideas. He immersed himself in the works of Galileo and Kepler like those, absorbing their revolutionary insights and using them as stepping stones for his own discoveries. This period of intense intellectual exploration was both exciting and demanding, as Newton pushed himself to understand and question the very foundations of science. Newton's dedication didn't go unnoticed. Dr. Isaac Barrow, one of his mentors and a leading mathematician of the time, quickly recognized the immense potential Newton possessed. Barrow's encouragement was pivotal as it helped Newton gain confidence in his abilities and pursue his unique line of thought. Newton's brilliance was becoming evident, but it came at a cost. The countless hours Newton spent studying eventually took a toll on him. He became so absorbed in his work that he neglected his health, leading to physical exhaustion. This raises an important question. How does one balance the drive for intellectual achievement with a need for rest and physical well being? Newton's experience serves as a reminder that even the greatest minds need to find harmony between their ambitions and their health. Okay, and let's talk about the okay. Isaac Newton's experience during the Great Plague and the Great Fire of London had a huge impact on him and how he saw the world. This event pushed him to think beyond just studying science for knowledge. They made him realize science could actually help improve people's lives.
Okay, so let's move on to Newton's inventions. So Isaac Newton was a pioneer in astronomy and mathematics, and he has made significant advancement in our understanding of light and color. And his experiments with prisms help establish foundational principles of optics, which revealing how white light is composed of a spectrum of colors. And additionally, he invented the reflecting telescope, which is a revolutionary tool that eliminated distortions caused by lenses. and which has led to clearer and more precise observations of the universe. And next, Royal Society. So Newton's intellectual journey was also shaped by his collaboration with other great minds of his time. And he was part of the Invisible College, which later evolved into the Royal Society of London. And as a president of the Royal Society, Newton provided a platform for scientists to exchange ideas and conduct groundbreaking experiments. And his interaction with these intellectuals not only influenced his thinking but also fostered an environment that promoted scientific discovery. And next, related with Bible. So Newton's intellectual pursuits extended beyond science into theology, and his interpretation of the Christian Bible showed influence from Jewish traditions, which has controversial during his time. Furthermore, his studies in alchemy often conflicted with mainstream religious views. So Newton's approach to science and theology was shaped by Aristotelian methodology, but his critics of Aristotelian thought allow him to redefine our understanding of the universe and faith. So, in conclusion, Isaac Newton was not just a scientist, but a motivated thinker who bridged the gap between science, society, and spirit.
And next is about his theory. And I'm gonna introduce one of his greatest theory is about gravity. The Wren, Hooke, and Halley discussed the unsolved problem of the gravity. As we know that Hooke is one of the greatest competitor to Newton. But then Newton revealed he has already solved the problem. And the story behind the theory, he confronted the King James II and resisted the judges Geoffrey's threats. And during the time, Newton's mother died and he had to battle his depression. The title is the Master of the Mint, and then is a successful completion of the recoinage plan. And the greatest honor he received is from the first knighthood for the scientific discovery. After Newton's death, he became an inspiration to all. And thank you. This is our presentation.
Oh, hello everyone. My name is Hank, and my crewmate have Bob, Ivan, and Leo, and Brian. It's Diego. 打错了 Diego. Okay, today I will introduce about Mitsu Fujita, and our group will separate this introduction into 14 parts. This is the directory of this presentation. And the first part, the early life and education. Mitsu Fuchida, his father, also aspired to join the military, but his dream was dashed when a baseball accident left him blind in one eye. Nevertheless, his father was a respected teacher in his community, and Mitsu Fuchida cherished a time he spent hunting and fishing with him. Mitsu Fuchida graduated from the Imperial Naval Academy in 1921. He was a very bright student, and despite his impulsiveness and ego, he was a hands-on type of man, and above all, passionate about his country. And the next part, I'll talk about Naval Academy experiences. Though he never wanted to be a pilot, he developed a desire for adventure after seeing elegant airplanes take off and land in the bay. And the second is determined willpower. On his first attempt, he failed his physical and academic exams, but after spending many hours swimming, studying late into the night, and running, training himself relentlessly to pass both, he eventually succeeded and was accepted into one of the country's top academies, an elite club. He earned his place through sweet and sure willpower and remained at the top of his class. And the third disdain for Western religions. He disliked foreign religions, believing that they divided the loyalty of the Japanese people. He believed that only the emperor could be called a master. And the next part is training voyages and cultural encounters. Mitsu Fujita was impressed by the size and power of American battleships. He thought that the Japanese Navy was outdated and weak compared to the US Navy. He met several Japanese American farmers who expressed concern about racism they encountered in the United States. And Mitsu Fuchida and the farmers were also taunted by American sailors, which deepened his resentment toward the United States. And this is about his personal life and vision. He married Maruko Kitaoka in 1932, had 2 sons and a daughter. He confident about Japan's empire, believed in military power for global dominance, but he also worried about the threat posed by the United States to Japan. And this is the military philosophy. Mitsu Fuchida was a firm believer in the offensive capability of the airships and advocated that they be used as an offensive force rather than a defensive one. He believed that Japan should concentrate all of its air carriers and carrier aircraft to form an air fleet with a strong strike force. He believed that the airships should not be regarded as defensive force but as an offensive force. He was skeptical of the Japanese Navy's theory of the decisive battle of the fleet, which relied on luring the enemy into Japanese waters and destroying them in a decisive battle. Mitsu Fuchida believed that the Admiralty was preparing for past battles rather than for future wars. And the next part is about Pearl Harbor attack. After Mitsu Fushida's selection to lead to the attack on Pearl Harbor demonstrated his ability as a strategist and leader. He carefully planned the attack and studied the layout of Pearl Harbor and the movement patterns of the U.S. fleet. After Pearl Harbor, Mitsu Fuchida continued to play an active role in the Pacific War, taking a part in major battles such as Battle of Midway. His attention to detail and pursuit of perfection was reflected in his meticulous preparation of aircraft. On one mission, he asked his engineer and mechanic, Mr. Kim, "What is the condition of my airplane?" Kim replied, "Sharp as a tack, sir." As the war progressed, Mitsu Fuchida witnessed the gradual decline of Japan's naval and air power. He lamented the loss of young pilots and recognized the overwhelming superiority of American industrial power. And Mitsu Fuchida was deeply shocked by the death of Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, whom he considered to be the greatest commander in the Japanese Navy. He vowed to avenge Yamamoto's death and continue to fight to protect Japan. However, his hope for Japan's victory grows dimmer and dimmer.
Okay, I'm Bob, and talking about post-war disappointment. After Japan lost World War II, the series of the war trail has begun. And Michio Fuchida think that it's just because America has won, so they are guilty. But after that, he met a former POW who was treated humanity by Americans. This raised a question about Fujita. Is the right to hold a belief and personal struggle. Everything he lived for and led others to die had become nothing. Worse than that, the nothing is that he don't know what he should believe right now. He is the first time in his entire life he lost his direction, and before that, he going to the Hiroshima. He saw that Hiroshima has been completely destroyed by the atomic bomb. It deeply shocked his belief. Next. So after that, Mijika learned about Piggy, a girl that his parents get killed by Japanese, but she choose to forgiveness and treat well about those Japanese POWs. This began to reconcile his understanding of the revenge and hostility. Next page. After that, after all this, he learned about Jacob Disham's story, inspired by an American pilot who has been tortured by Japanese, but the pilot eventually chose to forgiveness. And after he buy the Bible, he studied about Jesus. Jesus talk about love and forgiveness. Realize the power of the forgiveness and love to the Jesus word. Some like forgive them, Father, because they don't know what they're doing. Okay. After that, he go into the downtown business district and speak to the public about love and forgiveness. And global outreach, Michio Fuchida turned down the offer of the post of the first chief staff of the Air Self-Defense Forces, choosing rather to spend the rest of his life traveling the world, talking about the others about what Jesus doing to him. All right. So let me do a conclusion. First, Michio Fuchida was a military leader. He trusts the Japan imperial ambitions and worked hard with it. But after the loss, the battle, he facing death, witnesses the world desolation, witnesses that Hiroshima has been completely destroyed, and started questioning his belief. After that, he embraced Christianity. He embraced Jesus to dedicate his life to reconciliation and service. Thank you.
George
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today we'll be talking about George Washington Carver. Uh, okay, on behalf of my group, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for your attention. So, we'll be talking about one of the most influential person in this world because he invented and he came across the invention of peanuts. So as we all know that in today's life there's like 300 uses of peanuts. So he was one of the most influential people in the world. So without wasting any time, I would like to introduce a short video where we will introduce how he became to such being an influential person.
George Washington Carver, a renowned scientist and inventor, is known for his groundbreaking work with peanuts and other crops. His life's journey is a remarkable testament to the power of faith, perseverance, and answered prayer. Carver was born into slavery in Missouri in the early 1860s, during a tumultuous period in American history. Despite the immense challenges he faced as an African American during the post-Civil War era, Carver's faith in God and his love for nature were evident from a young age. As a child, George was fascinated by plants and agriculture. Despite limited access to education, he developed a strong passion for learning, and his faith played a pivotal role in his determination to seek knowledge and improve the lives of others. In 1896, Carver received an invitation to join the Tuskegee Institute in Alabama, where he would become the head of the agriculture department. This was a pivotal moment in his life, and he saw it as an answer to his prayers. He believed that God had guided him to Tuskegee to fulfill a higher purpose. Carver's work at Tuskegee became legendary. He transformed the southern agricultural landscape by introducing innovative farming techniques and crop diversification. One of his most remarkable achievements was with the peanut. Through experimentation and prayerful contemplation, Carver discovered over 300 uses for the peanut, ranging from food products to industrial applications. His faith was deeply intertwined with his scientific pursuits. Carver believed that God revealed secrets of the natural world to those who sought understanding with humility and reverence. He often spent long hours in his laboratory, contemplating the mysteries of God's creation and asking for guidance in his research. Carver's discoveries brought economic prosperity to Southern farmers and revolutionized the agricultural industry. His work not only benefited his community but also had a significant impact on the nation's economy. Throughout his life, George Washington Carver remained a deeply devout Christian. His faith in God's guidance and his dedication to serving others through his scientific work were unwavering. He often said, "I love to think of nature as an unlimited broadcasting station through which God speaks to us every hour if we will only tune in." Carver's remarkable journey from slavery to scientific pioneer, driven by his faith in God, continues to inspire people worldwide. His legacy serves as a reminder that faith, combined with passion and a desire to make the world a better place, can lead to discoveries and innovations that change the course of history. George Washington Carver's life is a testament to the profound impact of answered prayers rooted in faith and a deep connection to the natural world.
From that brief introduction, we will now take you through to his early life and then to his contribution to the society and then influence of the classics to in his life, in all his discoveries. So, without any waste of time, I will now pass on to my next presenter.
Thank you, Trevor. I'm going to be presenting on George Washington Carver's early life from chapters 1 to chapters 4. Starting with chapters 1 and 2, George Washington Carver was the son of slaves. He lost his father and sister, and we decided to put in a quote from the book Only the Good Lord Knows Where Your Mother Is Right Now. He was raised by Master Moses and Susan. He was frail, hardworking, and curious about nature, and he liked listening to the words of the Lord. He was given the name George Washington Carver at the age of 10 by the Carvers because of his honesty. He learned to read, write, and spell from the Carvers. His life story off to Neosho. He left home at age 10 to pursue education. He mostly slept in barns, worked in stables, cleaning stalls to earn money for food. He attended schoolhouse, and he overcame stuttering. He met the Martins, who supported him and guided him. They took him into their home. They gave him new clothes and a meal. George, being the hard-working child that he was, he worked in the garden. He went to church on Sunday, and here we have another quote from the book. Still, I felt a little shame in my old but clean clothes, for I knew the Lord cared nothing about his people dressed to pray. That is all on my end. Moving on to our next partner.
Good afternoon, everyone, and I'll be taking you through the next chapter, which is his journey to Fort Scott, Kansas. So, in this chapter, George Washington Carver travels to Fort Scott, Kansas, where he works at the Wilder House, which is a famous hotel in Fort Scott, Kansas, doing laundry. During his time there, he attends high school, where he excelled in nature studies and art. He loved reading about plants, soil, and spent hours drawing pictures of beautiful flowers and leaves. Going in school in Fort Kansas was a special day for him. During the holidays in the summer, he will travel the world as a railroad worker. During this time, it was 1885, and he was about the age of 21 years old. So he graduates from high school. Later, he's accepted into Highland University in Kansas with a scholarship for his good grades. However, on his arrival day at the main office to see the president, he is denied entry due to his race. George, at this point, he feels frustrated, he feels alone, and for the first time, he feels the good and merciful Lord whom he had always trusted seemed to have casted him aside. However, despite rejection by the university, Carver's determination led him to academic excellence in agriculture. He later enrolls at Simpson College at the age of 26. He was the only black student registered there, and he was majoring in art studies. So he spent most of his time in nature lab. He later transitioned to agriculture and earned both bachelor's and master's degree at Iowa State College in agricultural science. Go back. He also gets hired at Iowa State College to teach botany and in charge of the greenhouse. He thanked the Lord for this opportunity. Teaching proved joyful to him. He also enjoyed writing articles about plants discoveries for magazines and journals for his work. Plants and plant disease as well are also known to the world. So in chapter 10 to 11, he gets invited by Dr. Booker T. Washington to come to teach at Tuskegee Institute. During his time there, he got the opportunity to be given 20-acre pieces of land by Dr. Washington Booker T. to work on this land with his students. So during his time there, he guided about 20 students in soil care, teaching them practical farming methods, and also focused on sustainable agricultural methods to tend the soil. So one of his innovations there was developing agricultural techniques to improve soil health. He would, with his 20 students, would use 2 horse plow to tend the soil, turn it darker and richer. He also emphasized commitment by empowering farmers and students through hands-on experience. Maybe one of quote I could mention was Carver turned knowledge into empowerment, teaching farmers how to nurture the land. And this is all for my end.
Thank you, Musa. So, guys, I'll take you on Carver's contribution to the society, regarding the peanut discoveries. So, Carver discovered how peanuts they make the soil to be more fertile, which make easier for the plants to grow and yielding good 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 income for the other farmers. And then he also promoted good farming practices. So and he also advocated using peanuts in many ways, which for many purposes, which include candy making and baking. He celebrated his work as a blessing from God, of which here we quote where he stated that I was glad the Lord has shown me the miracles of his creation, of which is the peanut, and it also continues to say God was good to me. So Carver also taught the farmers on how to good sustainable farming practices, which benefited them, I think, in their own ways to maybe to earn some extra incomes and improve the society overall. And he was also recognized for his wonderful innovation that revolutionized how we see the industry of farming. So moving on to the next slide, I will now take a look at his later achievements. So Carver was nationally sorry about that. Carver was nationally recognized for the following contribution. Firstly, he was offered by Thomas Edison, of which is one of the famous scientists. He offered him a significant salary to join him on his research team, but then Carver declined, which showed his dedication at the institute at which he was teaching at Takiski, and he continued to work with the farmers. And continuing on, in January 1921, Carver was invited to testify before the U.S. Senate, advocating for a tariff on the imported peanuts, which impressed the senators with the way he speak and how he demonstrates. So, and he also, on his teaching, he also guided students in just like basic agricultural skills, like using a 2 horse plow, and also like soil management. And he was appointed collaborator in the Bureau of Plant Industry of the United States of Agriculture, August in 1935. And last but not least, he became a member of the Royal Society of Arts, London in 1917. That's my part. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Basize. So moving on to the conclusion part, I'll focus on his influence on classics and then later on his death. So the first point about influence on classics, we read that Carver was someone who loved learning and he saw education as a gift from God. He also had struggles. He had to walk miles to school, but he trusted God that He's going to guide him and protect him. When he had to go to university, he was denied entry at Highland University because of he was black. But he kept his faith strong. Believed in his talent for science because he believed that it was God's calling. He said some ideas came from listening to God in the quietness of nature, which we can see it as meditation. He refused to sell his inventions for money because he said God gave them to him and he cannot sell them. He won so many awards and always gave gratitude to God. All right, moving on to the sad part where he had to leave us on this earth. He left us with a very short prayer, which you can find in Psalms 23. I will recite the prayer as follows in George Washington's Carver's words. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside all still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before in my presence of my family, in my enemies, sorry. You anoint my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So that was George Washington's last words, and he died peacefully in his sleep in 1943 at the age of 79. He was buried in Tuskegee next to his friend and colleague Booker T. Washington. That's for our presentation. Thank you for listening.
Okay. Okay, quiet please, guys. Hey, hello, hello. Okay, let's give our attention to Morris, please. Put your hands one away. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Morris, and this is Victor. Today, we are going to talk about the topic of James Clerk Maxwell, based on the ebook provided by Professor Bai. First of all, James Clerk Maxwell was born on June 13, 1831, in Edinburgh, Scotland, a wealthy family. His father was a lawyer, and his mother had a passion for science and education. Maxwell grew up in the serene environment of his family's Glendale estate, where he developed a curiosity for natural phenomena. His mother served as his first teacher, guiding him in mathematics and religious studies, until her death from cancer when Maxwell was 8 years old, and this became a tragedy that profoundly affected him. In childhood, he had a strong interest in mechanics, mathematics, and optics, often crafting simple tools and models for experiments. And Maxwell was always curious, meticulous, and often asked the question why. He had a very strong curiosity about the world. And at the age of 10, Maxwell began formal education at Edinburgh Academy, mainly learning mathematics, languages, and classical literature. In his 13 to 14 years old, he wrote his first kind of paper, The Oval Curves, showing his extraordinary talent in mathematics. He then started to have courses in contact with optics and electromagnetism at school. He is really interested in these phenomena and began to conduct experiments. In addition to science, he was also very passionate about literature and poetry. He often recorded his observations and emotions in the form of poetry. And due to his naturally unconventional nature and a maturity beyond his years compared to his peers, he was once mocked by some classmates, which strengthened his ability to handle pressure. And he likes to do his own experiments outside of class, like making paper kites and optical instruments, which paved the way for future research. And at the age of 16, he chose to stay in his hometown to study at the University of Edinburgh, mainly studying mathematics and natural science courses. He was mentored by Philip Kelland and James Forbes, who were famous teachers by that time. James Forbes was known mainly for his great influence on the development of education in Scotland. These teachers give him a solid foundation in mathematics and physics. He then conducted significant research on light polarization, designing a simple experiment set up to investigate the phenomenon. At the age of 18, he submitted 2 papers to the Proceedings of the Royal Society of Edinburgh. The first is on the equilibrium of elastic solids. In this paper, he discussed the birefringence phenomenon that occurs in viscous liquids under the action of shear stress, which laid the theoretical foundation for one of his later important discoveries. The other one is rolling curves. Then he entered Cambridge Peterhouse in 1850. But in order to obtain better academic resources, he transferred to Cambridge Trinity College a year later. He showed outstanding mathematical abilities, especially in geometry and mathematical physics. He further researched electromagnetic theory and optics, studies that later became the core basis of his theory. And influenced by William Hopkins, also a well-known mathematician, he learned how to systematically solve complex mathematical problems. He then graduated in 1854 with the ranking second in class, and he had an honors degree in mathematics.
Okay, so now we are going to talk about the last final two chapter, and then we'll focus back to the influence of the classic on his life and contribution to science. So for the chapter 13, his illness and death, and Maxwell began experience difficulties with eating in the 1877, which was initially thought to become digestive issue. However, as time went on, his symptoms gradually worsened, accompanied by wet loose and persistent abdominal pain. And in October in the 1879, after consultation with several doctors, and he was diagnosed with abdominal cancer. For the doctor assessment, the doctor informed Maxwell that his condition was very serious and that he had only about a month left to live. And this news came as a shock to him, but he managed to remain calm and rational. Despite the threat of death, Maxwell did not completely abandon his work. His passion for science drove him to continue his research, particularly in the fields of optics and electromagnetism, even while in pain. And then the chapter 14 is just about his date of death and funeral. And Maxwell passed away on November 5th in the 1879 at the age of 48. His death was tremendous loss for the scientific community, friends, and family. His funeral was held in Cambridge, attended by many colleagues, students, and friends who come to pay their respect to this great scientist. At the funeral, people expressed their admiration and remembrance, reflecting on his outstanding achievement in science and his charismatic personalities. Okay. And for the impact and legacy, after Maxwell's death, many scientists published memorable articles reflecting on his achievement and impact on physics. Many believe that his work laid the foundation for 20th century physics, and he also was hailed as the father of electromagnetic waves. And also his last impacts on the electromagnetics, electrical engineering, and communication technology area. And now for his influence on the classic on his life. So as our member mentioned about his education background is in the Edinburgh, and it's including a significant amount of classical literature and philosophy. And this allowing him to directly engage with the thoughts of ancient philosophers like Aristotle and Newton. For his scientific methodology, Maxwell was influenced by classical scientists such as Newton, who emphasized the importance of observation and experimentation. In developing his electromagnetic theory, he adhered to this scientific methodology, integrated mathematics with physical phenomena. And for his Christian faith, Maxwell was a devout Christian, and his faith did not conflict with his scientific. He believed that the laws of nature reflect God's creations, leading him to seek an understanding of the truths of the universe in his studies. And the last part for the philosophical thoughts. Maxwell was influenced by German philosophers such as Kant and Hegel, whose ideas encouraged him to contemplate the essence of nature. And we want to use a sentence to conclude this one is Maxwell's life and work illustrate how classical thought shaped the perspective of modern scientific, enabling him to achieve remarkable accomplishment in the field of physics. And for our last part is contribution to science, which is a little bit hard. And we have three main points. Is the first one is optic and color theory. The second one, fundamental of electromagnetism, and the third part, statistical mechanics and gas dynamics. Okay, so for optics and color theory, in 1861, Maxwell created the world's first durable color photograph, and this achievement showcased his research capabilities in optics and laid the groundwork for subsequent series of color and photography techniques. Also, he proved that colors in nature could be created by mixing red, green, and blue primary color. And yes, And this is the photo that we screenshot from the ebook, which to prove that the color can mix by all the color can mix by the red, green, and blue primary color, and how he studied when the light reflect in the different materials. And the next one is for his fundamentals of electromagnetism. This has the two main points is about his Maxwell equation, which is the very famous one, and another one is his connection between light and electromagnetic waves. So for the Maxwell equation, he formulated the four equations that unify electric and magnetic phenomena, describing how electric fields and magnetic fields interact and propagate as waves. And how he proved the connection between light and electromagnetic wave is he published a paper in 1865, and its title is A Dynamical Theory of the Electromagnetic Field, where he first proposed that light is an electromagnetic wave, and he studied that light is composed of transverse undulation of the same medium. So this is the Maxwell equation, but we are not pretty clear about that, but we found a photo to prove it. Okay. And for the last one is about his statistical mechanics and gas dynamics. And he has one Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution. It's about method to describe the velocity distribution of gas molecules at a specific temperature applied to rare gas and plasma research. Another one is molecular motion and thermodynamics, which is temperature and heat are caused by the motion of molecules, introducing the term statistical mechanics, which later made the study of gas behave more systematic. So this is the photo about the Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution. And the next one is how is molecular motion and thermodynamics. And last one is our conclusion. We want to use the sentence from Einstein. He say, one scientific era ends and another begins with James Clerk Maxwell. And that's our presentation. Thanks.
So, have anyone heard about Michael Faraday? Raise your hand. Okay, cool. So you have to listen our presentation. So it's the father of electronic, and here are my teammates. So my name is Aaron, and our team read both English and Chinese version. So basically, our outline follows the book's chapter. And I was in charge of his early life story. So Faraday was born on September 22 in England. His family's finances are poor because his father is a blacksmith who often lie in bed due to illness. Meanwhile, his family is Sandemanian, which is member of Christian sect founded in 1930 in Scotland by John Glass. Glass was a minister in the Presbyterian Church when he was convinced that the Bible does not even mention a state church. He began to preach separation. As a result, the elders put him out in 1730. And then one guy who married with a Glass daughter. The guy is Robert Sandeman. He actually wrote a book filled with their doctrine because because of Sandeman's book, the believer are called Sandemanians. It's just a simple Christian who take the Bible seriously. So now let's move on to the chapter 1, dropouts. Faraday faced significant difficulties in his earlier education. He was bullied and mocked at school due to a speech issue that caused him to mispronounce the R. He often said his name as Faraday and instead of Faraday. As a result of bullying and the teacher's lack of support, his mother decided to withdraw him from school. So there's an interesting story about his school teacher who once laughed at him but also gave him a half penny to buy something from the store. A half penny is a British coin, and Faraday he didn't go to store to purchase something. Actually, he went home. So when he returned without anything to show for the money, his mother insisted that he return the penny to the school teacher. So one day, his sister tell the man this story, and this man he called Rebal. He is a bookbinder and a store owner. He after he listened to this story, he decided to hire Michael because he had never encountered such honesty in his life. So as a result, Michael began to working at a bookstore. So Michael's first job is to deliver newspaper. Since there is a tax on paper when people buy them, Rebal chose to render newspaper instead. So this means that Michael had to deliver the newspaper on time and after a while go around to collect them and gather the rental fees. So after Michael have been working for some time, Rebal decided to promote Michael as an apprentice. So this would give Michael the chance to study many books, which really affect his whole life.
And then I will talk about his contribution to society. Michael Faraday's discovery of electromagnetic induction in 1831 was a turning point in science. He showed that a moving magnet through a coil of wire generates the electric current. And it was the foundation of electric generators, transformers, and induction motors, which provides electricity to our homes and industries today. Faraday's work not only provided a practical solution for generating mechanical energy into electrical energy. And then Faraday's concept of electric and magnetic fields. Faraday introduced this concept of electric and magnetic fields, replacing the old idea of action at a distance theory. Later on, James Clerk Maxwell used his ideas to mathematically formalize the electromagnetic theory, which was the backbone of modern physics. Faraday was not just only a scientist, he was a passionate educator. This picture shows his famous Christmas lectures at the Royal Institution. He believed that science should be for everyone, and he had ability to explain complex scientific terms in an easy way, making it engaging and accessible for everyone. Next one. His legacy and influence. His ideas inspired Maxwell and Einstein. So Faraday says that with curiosity and determination, we learn to harness electricity and understand the forces around us. His work led the foundation of modern technology from electric motors um, to wireless communications. Even today, we still feel his impact. When we flip the light switch or when we use mobile phones, Faraday's reminds us that with curiosity and perseverance, we can change the world. Yeah.
Hello guys, I'm Arnold and now I'm going to discuss you about his influence of classic in his life because Michael Faraday is his life and works is deeply influenced by timeless and classical philosophy or classical principles found in religion, philosophy, and science. These classical influence shape his worldview, character, and scientific approach, making him the most respected scientist at all time. Michael Faraday was born in Sandeman family that was mentioned in the chapter 1, the breakthrough. Because his parents was devoted as a member of sects, and even when he grew up, he even remained devoted to his faith and community. He even turned on the position of presidency of Royal Society because it conflicted with the Sandemanian principles. Faraday believed serving others and maintaining humility, leaving behind a legacy of integrity and devotion to both science and faith. His life reminds us that the values can guide us to make meaningful and contribution to the world. He also avoid the wealth and fame, and Faraday consistently devoted it, and he also rejected to become the knighthood, believing that personality rejection conflicted with Jesus' teaching about humility, and he lived in a simple life. Michael Faraday's journey to becoming one of the greatest scientists of all time began rather on a humble settings. Because he worked in a bookbinding shop, he worked as a delivery and assisting and bookbinding. In chapter 4, in the errand boy, captures his life when his access to book sparkled his passion to science, and the two books had profound impact to his life, the Encyclopedia Britannica and the Conversation on Chemistry by Jane Marcet. The Encyclopedia Britannica, he studied the articles on electricity and magnetism. He conducted small experiments to understand the concepts. And the help of Conversation on Chemistry by Jane Marcet, giving him the first real understanding about chemistry. And he took meticulous notes, which would later prove instrumental in advancing his career. The last one is the legacy of Isaac Newton, the Principia Mathematica. Although Michael Faraday lacked of formal mathematical training, his scientific mindset was deeply influenced by the principle established in Isaac Newton, the Principia Mathematica. Faraday admired Newton's insistence on experimental evidence and universal laws. While Faraday did not engage directly with the mathematics of Principia, he extended Newton's legacy by exploring forces in nature such as electromagnetism.
I'm going to talk about that chapter of the book. It talks about how Faraday discovered the electric generator. Faraday knows that if lightning struck a steel rod, the rod would become magnetized. He curious about why could the magnetism also transform into electricity. So this became his goal. After a British shoemaker discovered the concept of the electromagnet, Faraday began the experiment by wrapping coils around the magnet. From his diary, we know that he faced failures many times. At the same time, he continued delivered lectures every Friday at the Royal Institution, not only to earn a living, but also in hope of gaining insights through his presentations. Faraday also deeply resonated with Jesus' teaching of helping and educating those in need. He enjoyed performing simple experiments for children, bringing them joy through science. It wasn't until 1831, after another failed experiment, as he dejectedly blew the magnet out of the coil, he noticed that the needle of the galvanometer twitched. This is his groundbreaking discovery of how a magnetic field could generate electricity. He then designed a device capable of generating electricity continuously. This invention was the original electric generator. So, despite his scientific achievement, the Royal Society wanted to offer him an annual pension of £300 to support his research and living expenses, but he declined because feeling unworthy of the money. He eventually accepted it humbly after being reminded that his wife might need financial support after his death. On one occasion, he chose to attend a dinner with the Queen instead of a church event, which led to remove from his elder position in the church by two senior members. However, Faraday didn't complain about it, but continued participating in church activities. As his memory began to deteriorate, doctors advised him to cut his workload in half, but he refused to abandon his lectures and even declined the presidency of the Royal Society, wanting to dedicate more time to his research. With age, his memory continued to decline. During his final lecture, he accidentally burned his notes, bringing the presentation to an abrupt end. The audience gave him a rousing ovation, recognizing the sunset of one of Britain's greatest scientists. Faraday passed away in 1867 and chose to bury in a simple cemetery. And this is our reference. Thanks for everyone's attention.